broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
This is Dr. Bradley Nelson, author of The Emotion Code, How to Release Your Trapped Emotions for Abundant Health, Love, and Happiness. You're listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio. For more information about the Body Code, visit ExtremeHealthRadio.com/Body Code.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on another edition here of Extreme Health Radio. If I can get these sound levels to be nice and high. I don't know what happened here with the soundboard.
Yeah, it's a little funky this morning.
A little bit weird, a little bit strange.
As long as they can hear us.
I got 6,000 buttons here. I don't know which one does what.
But you're getting better.
I am learning, that's for sure.
You're sure good with the mute button when you're tired of hearing me talk.
That is true. That is true. If I don't want to hear you talk, I'll just mute you.
I'm totally kidding.
So thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is episode number 215. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, 215. And this is Wednesday, March 5th, 2014. And today we have a really great guest, Dr. Ann Baro on. And we're going to be talking about autoimmune diseases, candida, multiple sclerosis, empowering patients, which is something that seems to be, what would I say, completely opposite these days?
Yeah. Well, I would agree with that.
Most doctors disempower their patients, don't they? So we're going to introduce her in just a moment. This is going to be a lot of fun, and we can answer your health questions, hopefully the three of us, and we have the live chat room. So if you want to listen live, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/live. Excuse me, I just drank a smoothie and it's still sitting in my throat. I don't know what's going on. You can listen live and ask your question in the live chat room and get your health questions asked that way. Or you could send an email in to justin@extremehealthradio.com and join the show that way as well. And
or you can email me.
That's right, Kate.
I'm manning it too.
That's right.
You could also email Kate, Kate, @extremehealthradio.com.
And for reference, again, this is episode number 215. So if you'd like to join the show, if you're listening to the podcast and you have any comments that way, you can just go to our website /215 and you can ask your questions or state your comments about the show, anything like that. And today we have Ann Baro on, and her website is Ann Baro, AnnBoroch.com, and she's a nutritional consultant, naturopath, educator, author, and inspirational speaker, and she has a really crazy story herself. She overcame multiple sclerosis, similar to Dr. Terry Walls, who we had on the show. I'm not sure when that was, about 6 months ago. And she's been symptom-free now for 20 years.
Good night.
Yeah, and she has quite a story. So, and now she works with people, and she even had a near-death experience.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, let's get this. I love these stories.
Now your eyes lit up.
I know, right?
And she works with people with candida, autoimmune diseases,
which are running rampant, it seems like, these days.
Yeah. People can contact her via Skype from her website, AnnBoroch.com. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. And so I want to thank you, Ann, for being on the show today. Really appreciate your time today.
Great. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you located, by the way?
I'm in Los Angeles, so I live in Burbank, and I practice in Studio City.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so people can come physically to your location, and then you can see them on Skype as well?
Absolutely. Both options. So the majority of clients see me in office, and then I do Skypes around the world or phone sessions.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay. So you've been bearing through this horrible winter like we have, huh?
No, I get to hear the stories on the other end. So I'm like, they're like, it's 40 below. I'm like, it's 85 here. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, ours, we're just down south of you, about an hour south, and it's been one of the most mild winters, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. And the rain we had this weekend was great, but we need more of it. So
yeah.
Hopefully there'll be more on the way.
Yeah, that's what I hope. Do you do any gardening or growing your own food these days at all?
I love the concept of it. My time is limited, so I have a great big backyard. There have been times I have, but I would actually need someone to take care of it. Unfortunately, I don't have the best green thumb, but it's something I'd love to experiment with more and maybe have someone help me out with that, because there's nothing like it when I did do it. I mean, just, a tomato tastes like a tomato, and the culinary herbs are just amazing to what you add to the salad or whatever dish. So I'm all about that, and I think we're getting forced more into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah,
Seems like every day there's some shocking new evidence or study on, food we're eating and what's in it. And it's even our produce is getting kind of sketchy.
Well, Kate, you were talking yesterday with a naturopathic doctor, I forget, or something about how the food that's coming up from Mexico, even the organic food, is what sprayed with
human feces. They're finding for fertilizer.
Well, look, here's the thing. When we start talking nutrition, it's a very fine line of what's truly organic and what's clean, because with the use of genetically modified organisms and the pesticides and herbicides, everything at this point is cross-pollinated. So to have really clean food is really challenging, and that's why people are doing more of their own gardens in their backyard. It's not that we need to be paranoid, but it's the reality of what's happening. And so, the best thing to do is grow your own, support local farmers markets, and then buy organic when you can in in the stores, because at least you think there's some intention out there. And hopefully the more that people band together and we demand more of these practices change, then, hey, they'll go where the money goes. So that seems to be what happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. So what are some of the main things people coming into your office? What are you working with mostly with people?
Well, I specialize in autoimmune disease, so I see everything from MS to scleroderma, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and everything else under the sun, because candida is my specialty, but that really, people don't even really know what that is yet, and that filters through all the conditions we see: fatigue, mental illness, psoriasis, GI issues. So, it's my key is I get to the root of what's going on with you, which is getting to inflammation and infection. And that's really how you simplify disease. And so, and even now I don't really specialize in cancer, but I have a wave of women with breast cancer in my office right now. So I'm learning about it, whether I like it or not.
Wow, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your story. I know that you healed yourself of multiple sclerosis over 20 years ago, and you had a near-death experience, and your story is very powerful.
Well, yeah, I'd say, this is what makes me a very good healer, is that, I've read a lot. I'm a great searcher for truth and growth, but really where my experience comes in is having walked through some really dark valleys. I mean, to summarize, I was a sugar addict. I probably ate more sugar than 10 teenagers put together.
Oh,
I had about 15, 16 silver amalgam fillings in my mouth by the time I was, 12, 13. And I was type A. I was going a mile a minute. And, my first health crisis came in 18. It was a severe case of mononucleosis, the kissing disease, Epstein-Barr virus. And I didn't get better. And I was literally a guinea pig. I had been on more than maybe 30 different medications, and I was dying. And, this book fell in my lap by Dr. William Crook called The Yeast Connection. And he was the first MD to really publicize, besides Orion Trust, what yeast was, candida. It's a yeast that lives in everybody. It's ubiquitous, but it can easily get out of balance. And I read that book and took that questionnaire, and I started crying, and I was like, this is what I have. And I changed my diet by getting rid of alcohol, sugar, wheat, dairy, and I took, at that time, Nilstat. It's a powder. It's an antifungal powder that's actually prescription. It's a soil-based organism. And I followed that protocol with some minor supplementation and got better. And it took me about a year, and then I kind of went back to my crazy ways. I didn't realize that this could come back even more virulently. And at 24, I was sitting in a restaurant, and all of a sudden I had what looked like a conscious epileptic attack. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't swallow, I couldn't move, and I started to spasm uncontrollably. And in 2 weeks' time, I sat across from the specialist, and the doctor said, well, great news is you don't have cancer, bad news is you have multiple sclerosis. And I was 24, and I looked at my mom, and I was like, what is this? And he goes, you're probably going to be in a wheelchair, and what we have to offer you is chemotherapy.
Why would they give chemotherapy for that? That's so strange.
Well, because they didn't have they call them the crab drugs now, but, Avenix, Betaseron, all the interferons, they didn't have those MS medications at that time. So what they wanted to use with chemo is that when you have an autoimmune condition, which MS is where the body attacks its own myelin sheath, which is the covering of the nerves, they will do anything to suppress the immune system, and that's what chemo does. But it wipes out good and bad. You don't want to wipe out an immune system, you just don't want it attacking yourself. So I looked at my mom and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but if I take this drug, I'm going to die. So I said, I'd rather try to figure this out on my own.
Really?
And very limited resources. There was one book in a store that was more of an alternative bookstore called the Dietary that no longer exists, called MS by Judy Graham. And I had Dr. Crook's information, and I had a medical intuitive step in my life at that time. And it all pointed back to candida, get the diet cleaned up, get your silver fillings out, and work on emotional mental stuff. And I took a little bit of supplementation, but I didn't know much. And it was a very 4-year tumultuous journey. I did survive a near-death experience, and I can tell you it's much easier on the other side. It was a big choice to come back, but I realized there was a lot more for me to do, and that came to the extraction of my 15, 16 silver fillings. In hindsight, I did it 3 months into my journey, and I was way too fragile. I was having those conscious attacks, immune response attacks every day. I basically was bedridden the first 8 months. It was hard for me to chew, to swallow, to think, to breathe. It was terrifying.
That's amazing. And you were 24 years old at the time?
Yes.
Gosh, isn't that wild? So what happened with your near-death experience? Did you feel like you were dying, or you did die, or what happened
Well,
there?
I did. I mean, basically, in the afternoons is when those attacks would come on, and then it would feel like a wave of paralysis. And this time it was different. And so I was going through the extractions of my amalgams, and even though that was arduous, I took no Novocaine or anesthesia, because if you put a needle in me, I would have an attack. So for my dentist to work with me,
oh my gosh,
and we used tricks like orange honey under my tongue to bring oxygen and rosemary to move the circulation. It was a very intense process. I remember this day him sweating, and I don't remember any pain, but I would get violently ill after because I was already sick, and you're still taking in some mercury vapors. So that was compromising my immune system. In hindsight, I would have waited at least a year or two.
Wow.
But halfway through afternoon, I'm lying on the couch as I normally would, and this wave of paralysis came over, and I exited. It was my last breath, and everything that you feel, the light, the gravitational pull up, and I was kind of out in the ethers, and it was silent for a while and peaceful, and the message was, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And there was more silence. And the message came in, it was just kind of like me saying it, but not saying it. It was, no, there's more for you to do. And I literally shot back in my body and sat up like the exorcist and let out a horrendous scream that got my breath going. And then my mom looked at me and realized that I had died. And I couldn't speak at that point, but I pointed to her to come to me right away to let me know I could still walk. So she hobbled me around the room. And it was, hey, very courageous on her part not to call 911, because that would have been the paradigm of going back into drugs, and I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, they would have given you something, right? I'm sure.
Yeah. And the reality was, after that, I made a real clear choice that there was no gray for me. It was either going to be take me away or let me beat this thing, put it to bed forever, and that's the choice, and that's where I became. And, the ride was still more intense. I had to move out of LA to get more oxygen. I started to tackle emotional mental dynamics, and that brought me going through a suicide attempt. So, unfortunately, the end of the story is that I cracked physiologically and psychologically, but I came out the other end. I was able to put this to bed for 20 years and basically change DNA, which I think is possible based on your beliefs, and know that I was to be a healer. I mean, that's really how I became into doing the work that I do, and that's why there's nothing that walks in my office that I'm not able to tackle, because I have the tools, I have the knowingness of being in some very dark places and giving you the inspiration and the tools of how to get out of that place.
Yeah. Wow, that's what a story.
Was it during that journey of recovery, like you said, going inside and really dealing with your internal stuff, that you felt called to be in the healing field, or was it after you kind of, quote, recovered from that?
No, it was after. I was so in the thick of it that it was survival for so long, and that when I came out the other end, I was working in the record business, and I thought, I love music and film, but this isn't my passion, and I split. I just quit, and I took an Adobe sight unseen in a town called Cuesta, which is north of Taos, New Mexico. And I literally just kind of was like Little House on the Prairie, and it was awesome. I felt, invigorated. It solidified my healing. It was independence for me. And I kind of just was with the land, let's say, and I thought about, I wasn't rich, so after a couple of years, I was like, well, I got to get out of here because what am I going to do? I'm making, minimum wage. So I wasn't ready to come back to LA, and I went to Seattle, and someone said, hey, if you can handle the gray, you're going to love it. And I could not. And so I came to LA, and I thought, I want to write my story, and I think I want to go to school and become a healer. And so I did. I became a hypnotherapist first, and then I became a naturopathic doctor, and, I've loved everything. I've done everything from iridology to neuro-linguistic programming to, I love to learn. And what I've done is I'm very eclectic, and I weave it all into what I do, and I'm extremely intuitive. And that's come over the last 16 years of practice. So when people sit with me or I'm with them, there's much more that happens than just eat this and take that. So It's a very special reading that happens. And, and the reality is you have to look at all the layers. The reason people's bodies are crumbling to the stages of autoimmune and cancer is because there are spiritual, psychological dynamics, not just you're inflamed because you have candida or, you eat too many trans fats. That's part of it. That's not all of it.
Because really the spiritual, the psychological, the emotional, we're starting to think here that that's really the core of everything, because those are the actual things that drive us to be addicted to sugars, addicted to breads and all those types of things. It's much deeper than just the physical food we eat, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it all begins and ends there. I think that, your subconscious mind is like, it's your best friend. It has no discerning capability between right or wrong, no sense of humor, and it loves repetition. So whatever you say most often, do most often, feel most often is what you are. And we get this programming when we're little from our parents and society and teachers, and we don't stop to question our beliefs. We don't stop to do the inner work. And, that's where I explore, because healing happens so much quicker if you kind of go within, and that doesn't mean 20 years of therapy. It means moving out of a space of denial, moving into awareness, and taking accountability for the patterns that you need to break, and finding the tools to do so. And there's so many resources now. And when you become a clean running machine, let's say, where you feel more whole and balanced on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to me, that's your greatest contribution to the planet. Because just when you're more in that frame of wholeness, you don't have to say a word. People pick up your energy and how you act and what you do and how that contributes onto others. So, it's much more than changing the diet. And then when people get in touch with these levels, not only do they heal, but they thrive. And that's my whole mission is, what is your passion and what have you come here to do? So let's take care of the kinks in essence. Let's get rid of your pain and your whatever's going on with the body, and then you go to the next level of doing what you've really come here to do.
Wow. So do you work with people? You said you do some NLP stuff and some intuitive stuff. So you work with people on all of these emotional. Is that something that you tackle first when you see someone, or do you tackle the physical first?
My first session I spend 2 hours with people, and it's usually, it's deep. And a lot of people kind of crack open on the first session. It's usually that I'm able to go right to their core and present to them what it is that's in their way, and put it in such a way that they feel it's not insurmountable, and give them the tools and tips and how to move through it and begin their journey to get out of that area and realize that, we don't have to keep carrying the story. The story was our greatest teacher to wake us up to maybe more compassion or maybe more discipline or whatever. Everybody has their own little thing they need to learn in life. But usually those obstacles that are the most intense are our greatest teachers. When we have screwed up family dynamics, those people were there for a reason. In my case, it was to teach me self-esteem. I had none. I was a perfectionist, and I had no self-esteem because I had very critical, domineering parents. And I thank them. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but they were my greatest teachers to learn how to honor and trust myself.
Do you have patients that come in who are just not willing to go there at that time, or walk out and never come back because they're not willing to do the emotional work, or is it pretty much the other way around?
It's rare because, with all of this, I'm very humorous and I'm very real, and I'm not telling them, if you don't come back and work on this, I'm not going to see you. It doesn't work like that. I kind of I bring the light in people, and I give them the awareness. And so it kind of is like planting the seed, and then they germinate it and let it grow. So, no, very rarely, because partly is, people come all through word of mouth. I don't really publicize, and so they kind of have a sense of what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I have asked the universe to send me people that want to see me. There are many that need to see me, but the difference is health is a choice. You need to take the action steps. I will give you everything and more and be your best cheerleader, but I don't heal you. You heal yourself. So the reality is very rarely do I get someone that doesn't, follow through.
Awesome.
So when people want to come see you, do you do things with them like take a look at their blood, or do you do any things like that with people?
I do, but I don't usually need that in the beginning. I work with a really cool quantum physics software program that will assess the body in 3 minutes, and with my intuition, I don't really need much more. And after the average client only sees me 3 visits, because after that I'm able to help them shift chemistry where they feel amazing. Unless it's cancer or autoimmune, then I need more. So after the 90 days, if we're still hitting roadblocks, or I think there needs more of that, then we'll look at some blood work, or if they want to do a specialized, food sensitivity test. But many people have already done that, and they'll bring it in, and I certainly look at that. But it's a given to me. When people walk in my office, I call them, I have a picture on my wall. It's like a swamp. And I'm like, are you majorly a swamp or minorly? Because the 4 things that inflame us are nutritional deficiency and toxicity, psychological stress not managed, environmental toxins, and infections such as candida, virus, parasites, and bacteria. And by the time someone walks in my office, they have all those critters. So when I clean all that up, and you get to the root of that, usually people don't need to go any further. So, what I've kind of done in 16 years is really be in the trenches and learn how to create synergy in getting the most movement from the body in a short period of time.
That's great. That's great. We're with Ann Baroque, and her website is annbaroque.com, and that's ANNBOROCH.com. And you can go on there and schedule a Skype session with her and check out her books, too. We're going to be talking about candida and a little bit about multiple sclerosis, too, later on. We're going to take a little break here, but we're going to get up and move around. And we're going to be right back with Ann Baroque right after this break. Kate and I have had our sauna for about a year now, I'd say, when we first got it from Phil Wilson. And it's an incredible machine. We use ours about every single day. Kate sits in about 20 minutes, and I sit in there about for a half hour. Usually watch a documentary, and it's extremely relaxing. It's really, really incredible machine. And if you go to extremelealthradio.com/sauna, you can learn all about it. We did an entire hour interview with Phil Wilson. You can check that out. You can look at the pictures of us with it. You can watch videos on that page. It helps you to sleep really, really well. You can lose a lot of weight with it. You can burn, I think, around 600 calories in about 20 minutes or so. It improves your skin, increases circulation all over the body, and circulation is critical for your health. You can prevent and reverse diseases with it if you have a cold or flu. It's incredible. It heats you down to the core. It heats 4 to 6 inches inside your body, so it's really incredible. And a lot of people use it for cancer as well. So if you have any kind of incurable, quote, disease, you can use it for that. And Dr. Shade is the foremost authority on detoxification. And listen to what he says about it.
How do I detoxify from plastics? I mean, you guys are using a sauna, and what does a sauna do for us? A sauna is great. It's moving a number of different toxins. Remember, we talked about the mice that if you put PCBs in there, then that made the mercurial that much worse. And sweating moves out a lot of plastics, volatiles, fat-based toxins. It's really good at moving those out, sweating those out. So that's how you're getting those out, and those are contributing to this synergistic soup inside the body. And so that's why they're good, is they're taking out a bunch of the different things in the soup.
And Daniel Vitalis, one of our favorite guests. What do you have to say about the sauna?
When you go into the sauna, like a far infrared sauna like you discussed, your body goes into a deep relaxation mode, and your sympathetic nervous system shuts down and your parasympathetic nervous system turns on. And when that's active, that's the nervous system, part of your nervous system that's active when you meditate. That becomes active, and your detoxification pathways open up wide. Why is this important? It's important because when you go running and you sweat, you're not necessarily eliminating very much toxicity from your body. But when you sweat in the sauna, you eliminate a lot of toxicity from your body. So sweating in a relaxed state is how we eliminate. The other thing is that what's wonderful about the sauna is that it puts you in a parasympathetic nervous system response, like as if you were meditating. So it's almost a hack. It's like a trick to get yourself into a meditative, relaxed state, to decompress stress, to reverse the effects of stress, and to get your body eliminating deep, deep toxicity that's stored in your body fat because it can come out in the oils of your skin. So I think, sauna is one of the most crucial detoxification, really health practices that we could take on, especially in this era of heavy toxicity, particularly fat-soluble toxins.
This sauna is really, really great. They offer payment plans because if you buy it through PayPal, it's 100% secure. You don't even need a PayPal account. I think you could do a payment plan through PayPal. It's got low EMF electromagnetic fields coming off of it. It's portable, so that means you don't have to knock down a wall in your house. You can just move it from room to room. It sets up in about 2 to 5 minutes. It's super easy to clean. All you got to do is wipe it down when you're done and wipe the neck down. And it produces energy and heat inside very, very evenly throughout the whole machine. All you have to do is sit in there for about 15 minutes a day. And the great thing I like about it too is it requires zero preheating. So you turn it on and you're starting to get warm and you're starting to detoxify with that far infrared light almost immediately. So it's really great. It comes with a 1-year warranty. It's about $990 plus $25 shipping. And that's really, really a good deal because if you look at most of the regular saunas out there, they are in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. So this is really, really a good deal. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
So during the break, we both took our little vitamin B12 shots, didn't we? Our little Now tincture.
Yes.
And I smell that everywhere now, all throughout the house. It's on our dog.
I was going to say we kissed Maggie on the same ear, so one of her ears smells like B12. It smells like walking into a vitamin store in the 70s.
Oh my gosh, doesn't it?
Kids, yeah.
It's hilarious. My goodness.
Funny, huh?
We're with Ann Baroque, and her website is ANNBOROCH.com, and a fascinating woman, and she's doing some really great work. She healed herself of multiple sclerosis over 20 years ago and had a near-death experience, and now doing a lot of work with people and consulting with people and seeing people in person as well as through Skype. And she does a lot of work with candida. She's written a book on candida as well as multiple sclerosis. So really fascinating stuff. If you guys would like to stay up to date with our shows, please feel free to follow us on Facebook, extremehealthradio.com/Facebook, and you can get the updates to all of our shows as well as the archives of past shows, and then you'll get notifications of new shows and all that good stuff. So stay tuned on Facebook so you can keep up to date with our schedule. So Ann, you have written recently a book on candida, and I was thinking during the break, it's really interesting, this whole idea of yeast infections and things. It seems as if to me that having a yeast infection and having a raging candida infection, would it not lower the energetics of the body to start with to cause other problems like maybe parasites and heavy metal toxicities to occur as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of the root causes to most everything we see out there. And what candida is, it's a single-celled organism. It starts that way, and everybody has it, male, female, child. And it predominantly lives in the GI tract. And if you were to stretch out your small and large intestine, it's the size of a tennis court. So you have 80% of your immune system lies there, and ideally you want to have 80% good bacteria to 20% not so good. We naturally have some funky bacteria and candida, and as long as it stays in that ratio, we're fine. But the things that start to wipe out the good bacteria, which allows the yeast to multiply and grow, are antibiotics, steroids, birth control pills, hormone replacement therapy, vaccinations, stress, sugar, and alcohol. So you only need one dose of antibiotics in your lifetime to change the ratios. You could have been 7, and you had strep throat. You take an antibiotic, wipes out good and bad bacteria, so nothing keeps the yeast in check, and it starts to multiply. And people go, well, I haven't had antibiotics in 20 years. How could that be me?
Mm-hmm.
I say, what do you love to eat? How do you manage your stress? If your stress is high and you eat, pastries and coffee and alcohol and breads and pasta, all of this turns into sugar rapidly, which feeds the yeast. Then it turns into a mycelial root fungal form, and it will start to burrow through the intestinal lining, little pinholes known as leaky gut. So beyond candida poking through, and then all the wheat that we're eating, the gluten, because it's not the same strain that we had 4 decades ago, leaky gut is so common. It's, I'd say almost everybody has it. It's just whether it's mild, moderate, or severe. And then once it pokes through, really what you're dealing with are the mycotoxins. It's the toxins that come off the fungus that do the damage. And some people might have GI issues, gas, bloating, irritable bowel, reflux, but a lot of people may not even feel that and know that that's the root of what's going on. With them, they might have anxiety, depression. They may have fatigue. They start to gain weight even when they're eating healthily. They have eczema. Bottom line is those toxins will go and disrupt the communication of the body, and it will wipe out the immune system. And so the longer this goes on, you wonder why you stop into a doctor's office and realize you have cancer, or you have an autoimmune disease, or you have something that's a chronic condition or more, something that's going to get your attention. And that's because it's, indirectly or directly causing most of what's going on. And when you have fungus, you're also going to have viruses that will activate and that aren't dormant anymore. And you'll have bacteria thrive because they all love one thing, sugar. So the reality is that you become this swamp that I talked about in the beginning. And if you don't get rid of this infection and inflammation, then disease is inevitable.
So how can you tell if someone comes into you? Do you test them for candida and all this? How does that look?
No, don't even waste your money.
Don't waste your money.
There are stool and blood tests. It's not perfected yet because parasites and yeast are very evasive. They like to hide the tissues and organs, and you can be loaded with it and still come up negative. So don't waste the time. The bottom line is I feel everybody today, particularly in the United States, has either a mild or moderate case of yeast overgrowth. So if you do my program, the 90-day program in my book, The Candida Cure, that is something I love everybody to do because I go much deeper than just dealing with candida in my book. But typically, anytime you're seeing cancer autoimmune, to me, that's severe candidiasis because I think cancer is equated with fungus. I think that's one of the root causes of cancer.
Yeah,
the reality is...
There's a couple people that are doing some work on that. Dr. Tullio Simoncini, I think, out of Italy, doing some work on cancer as a fungus. And then Dr. Doug Kaufman, I think, his website's Know the Cause, and he does a lot of work with like this whole antifungal diet, probably much similar to yours, where you're getting people off of these things. And just, I was wondering, is it possible, do you think, to get someone, let's say someone's had a bunch of antibiotics, which it seems like we've all had, is it possible to, is that irreversible damage, do you think? Is it possible to get our bodies to a state where we were before we had any vaccinations, any antibiotics or anything?
Well, yeah, of course. Look at the body. This is what people need to know. Your body's not wired to attack itself. Your body is wired to have homeostasis and balance and thrive. The key is people don't know how to clean up the environment long enough, and that's my specialty. So the reality is if you've got to take a round of antibiotics would be appropriate if you had staph infection, if you had bacterial pneumonia, if you had strep throat. If you have a bacterial infection, antibiotics serve a purpose. But after you finish that, you want to do a round of herbal antimicrobials, something like Candida ABX, which is mine, or Candida Cleanse by Rainbow Light, and probiotics. You want to be able to come back in and get the ecology balanced. The problem is no one's told that. Very rarely are you said, hey, take some probiotics after your antibiotics, or use something that has, oil of oregano or caprylic acid and black walnut hull to get the body back into balance. So, yes, absolutely, you can get it back.
Would you recommend, I've heard differing theories on whether or not people should take, not vaccinations, but probiotics. Probiotics during the time that they're on an antibiotic. Do you have any thoughts on when the probiotics should be introduced if someone is doing a round of antibiotics?
I think it's okay to do at the time you're taking the antibiotics, but you don't want to take it at the same time because the antibiotic will destroy it. So you want to take the antibiotics more with food, and if you take a probiotic, take it on an empty stomach away from the antibiotic.
Like maybe...
The reality, yeah. I mean, the point is, if you really feel that it's interfering and you're not getting the sense of the benefit of it, you can certainly wait till after a 7-day cycle. But, if someone's taking antibiotics for a month for something chronic, you don't want to wait that whole time not be taking probiotics or something to counter it. Absolutely not.
Now, what are some of the things that you would recommend? Obviously, the first step would be getting people off of these types of foods that are feeding the critters. And then what are some of the other steps that you would recommend to get this candida in control?
Well, the first step is changing the diet. Look, everybody would need I'd love everybody to do a 90-day window where they're doing more of my program to clean out and hit the reset button, because I'm not just balancing and getting rid of the infections. I'm balancing your blood sugar and adrenal function, and I'm decongesting the liver, gallbladder, and the lymphatic and blood and stuff. We need all of this, but the bottom line is it starts with diet. The most inflammatory foods that will feed not just candida but inflammation in the body are alcohol, sugars of all kind, including things like agave and honey, dairy, gluten, corn, excessive caffeine, because that will elevate adrenal hormones, which then elevates blood sugar. And I don't like soy just because most of it's genetically modified. But the bigger ones are the ones I mentioned. And those things have to be abstained, because if you keep putting them in the body, you're going to keep feeding the infections. And you go round and round and go, oh, this didn't work, because some people might just get rid of the dairy and gluten. Well, that's not enough. So you've got to create a diet, candida diet, which that's what you're avoiding, along with some fermented foods. I find a lot of the fermented foods create more of an allergy response. Yeast does not feed yeast, but it does aggravate it. That's why I don't even like food-based supplements with B vitamins coming from yeast. I don't like that in the beginning of a program. Keep it all clean. And then you've got to marry that with an herbal antimicrobial, something that's, got different ingredients such as oregano oil, pata arco, caprylic acid, etc. Now, and you do that long enough and you get the results.
So, we have, I was doing oregano oil recently because I had this last winter, I had a bit of a bronchial infection, and I was doing, we got recommended to do, I bought the little tinctures and did about 15 drops in a capsule.
Okay.
And that was pretty powerful stuff, I have to say. Oregano oil is incredibly strong, isn't it?
Well, it is. And, usually like in my formula, Candida ABX, I kind of buffer it out because there are companies out there that will throw everything at you that's really aggressive at getting rid of infection, but you want to buffer it so that the GI tract can handle it. So, yes, oil of oregano is great. Their culinary herbs are actually the most healing things on the planet. So that and thyme oil are amazing. It's just how you're taking it. Some guts can't handle it, and knowing when to take it, with food or without is really important as well.
So do you recommend things like olive leaf extract and things like that?
Yeah, olive leaf extract is great for immune system, particularly for viruses. So there's so many things out there that are working for people. It's just kind of what I tend to do when people see me is I rotate. I'll put them on a month or two of mine, and then I go to Candida Cleanse by Rainbow Light, and that's a little bit more parasitical driven, and then I'll rotate to some probiotics. So I like to rotate so that you get the variety of herbs and vitamins out there to get the job done.
Interesting. So now I'm curious about fruit. I eat about a piece of fruit a day. Maybe like today I had a pear and a little small handful of berries, frozen berries in a smoothie. And that's about the extent of the fruit that I do. I feel okay on it, but I do at times feel like I have a bloat kind of situation going on. And I'm wondering, what do you recommend for fruit for people?
Well, it's very limited in the first 90 days of my program. I usually allow, green apples that are sour, like a Granny Smith, and the berries, not cranberries, but blueberries and, raspberries, and then lemons and limes, avocado, and grapefruit. And that's it. Because sugar is sugar, and this is the point. Yes, it's natural to have fruit, but we have so blown out of proportion the amount of carbs and sugars we've done that the damage is done, let's say. And so that's why things like honey, if we had never had invented high fructose corn syrup, white sugar, we wouldn't have an issue. Honey would be fine to take in, and maple syrup. But when you've got someone who's dealing with, a health condition, they're inflamed and infected, and maple syrup is enough to keep the fire brewing.
Yeah.
You know, too much fruit is going to keep the fire brewing. So you want to be able to give the body a break and move more into doing, you know, quality grass-fed, organic meats, and, you know, 60% of the diet being vegetables, a lot of greens, you know, nuts and seeds that are raw, and, you know, limiting gluten-free grains. Even there, you don't want to OD on brown rice. So, you know, if it's autoimmune, I pull the beans and legumes for 3 months. And, you know, we limit certain grains because certainly no one today needs to be eating gluten. I don't care if you're reactive or not. That would be a really strong suggestion, is to avoid leaky gut and getting things out of balance, is to avoid gluten. And it doesn't mean running to all the gluten-free products, because 90% of what you see on the market is junk. It's full of corn and white rice and trans fats or sugars. So it's about looking for quality all the way through a product, and that means you got to get educated.
Now, we were learning a while back about the gluten molecule and how the actual molecule itself, from what we were learning, was something where you would look at it underneath a microscope, and the molecule shape itself almost looked like a throwing star or something like that. The person described it as, and I guess what he was saying was that it actually damages the intestinal villi. So that's one of the reasons why gluten is so hard to digest, because of this odd shape, almost like a diamond, where it cuts through your intestinal villi. I would imagine if that's the case, I mean, it's a lot worse than people probably think, right? Gluten?
Well, it is. And the thing is, they think because they don't have any gas or bloating or constipation or any GI discomfort, that it doesn't affect them. It does. It might be why you're having brain fog and memory issues or anxiety, depression, or you feel swollen joints, because just as the gut gets leaky, so do the lungs, and the blood-brain barrier is compromised. You see, the way we're dealing with mental illness and anxiety and depression is way off. This is a fungal issue. This is a severe vitamin mineral deficiency and an adrenal blood sugar imbalance. That is, if we started looking at mental illness that way, oh my God, people would then be able to deal psychologically with what's left.
Oh my gosh. I want to talk. Okay, we're going to take a little break. I want to talk about this mental illness thing, because I think you're hitting on something huge, and it's something that Kate and I talk about all the time, is, man, the way they're dealing with mental illness in this country, I feel like is so limited. They're working with one of probably 20 different things they could be using to really make some great progress with that. So I want to talk a little bit about that after the break. We're with Ann Baroque, and check out her website. It's annbaroch.com, ANNBOROCH.com. And she's written a couple books, and she can see you if you want to do a consultation via Skype, or if you're in the Los Angeles area, you can visit her office. So check out her
line of supplements. And
things. Good, great stuff. Okay, we'll be right back with Ann Baroque right after this break. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
All right, we're having a great time here with Dr. Ann Baroch. That's ANNBOROCH, AnnBaroch.com. If you want to learn more about her books, The Candida Cure and Healing Multiple Sclerosis. Great stuff, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Multiple MS comes up a bit, actually, with people writing in and are very challenged with that health issue.
It does, yeah.
So the more we can talk about it, the better.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating. So make sure to check out her website and check out her books too. The Candida Cure and Healing Multiple Sclerosis. And as the lady said, if you'd like to stay up to date with our shows and what we have going on, you can always join our email list. We'll give you a free ebook, really great ebook that will help empower your health, called Lessons from the Miracle Doctors. It sells for $20 on Amazon. So we give that to you for free just for signing up. So make sure to check that out. And before the break, we kind of just barely touched on this idea of mental health. And it's really fascinating looking at how they're treating people these days and really looking at it and thinking, man, if we incorporated just 3 or 4, 2 or 3 more things, we could make so much more progress with this whole issue, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, the paradigm is off, and it needs to change. I mean, what we're doing is I see people come in with not just one antidepressant, but 2 or 3, and then they've added something else for anxiety. And when you start mixing those cocktails, you really start to disturb brain chemistry. And, a pioneer in this area was Dr. Abram Hoffer. And he's an MD who wrote a book and a couple books and done many articles on really talking about dealing with schizophrenia and dealing with saying that there's so much vitamin mineral deficiencies that are going on with these people. And used niacin was one that he dealt with schizophrenia. And I feel that, it's a combination of those vitamin mineral deficiencies, fungal toxins, and blood sugar and adrenal issues that are causing the brain chemistry to go haywire. Because the problem is that once someone's tipped and they're schizophrenic or bipolar or what's going on, the problem is they usually have 1 or 2 bad food addictions, either like, a Coke dependency, or they're always eating carbs, and you can't kind of confine them. They're not going to have the willpower that the average person might have, so they really almost need to be confined to be able to change the diet and implement the protocol that needs to happen. But we could do that, and the reality is we could do so much better. It's like we kind of just make people numb and zombied out, and then that's the rest of your life. And I'm thinking, no, that's not it. There's so much more we could do.
So what's the standard protocol with mental health patients? I don't even know. I'm so far removed from that. But what's the standard? What do they do? Do they put them?
It seems like they just suppress them, and then they're not thriving in life.
Yeah. It depends on what's going on. I mean, if they're violent, then you're kind of, you're taken into lockdown, and you're given antipsychotic drugs. And then they'll diagnose you by the DSM and code you as what you are, and then give the medicine that's appropriate for that, and then send them out, and then hope for the best.
Oh, my goodness. Do you think there's any connection? Gosh, there has to be with vaccines and these things, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, we could go really deep here if we had more time, but, to me, the whole vaccination issue is another big issue for me, because the average child, if they went by the schedule that's allotted, by the time they're 20, they will have 68 vaccines. read a very good book called The Sanctuary. I'm thinking it's The Sanctuary of Blood. It's by Tim O'Shea. I might have the name wrong, but Oshea. It's his third edition. I think it's the Sanctity of Human Blood, something like that.
Okay.
And he really will educate you about vaccines. And the reality is that we're overusing them. We're giving hepatitis B to infants when we don't even need in this country before they even leave the hospital. These are filled with, aluminum, formaldehyde, live and dead viruses. A baby does not have a blood-brain barrier formed. Mm-hmm. So you're going to, give this to an infant and hope for the best and not think, maybe there's a connection to autism or ADHD or worse. So we're compromising immune systems right off the bat because, in the umbilical cord, there's going to be 250 toxins that already download. Then you give a bunch of vaccines, and then you feed them poor quality food, and then, you're lucky if the child is thriving.
Well, then also they don't let the umbilical cord, sit for a little while so it downloads the blood from the placenta. But then the women aren't breastfeeding either these days that much.
They're not breastfeeding, which is key, and that was critical in my case. I was not breastfed. It wasn't, a hip thing to do. And then I was allergic to the formula, and then so I really started out compromised. And a lot of women, they're having C-sections because of the hormones and antibiotics and things in the meat supply. These women are giving, bigger births, and they're literally without taking risks, they're having C-sections. So just, we're tipping on all ends where people really have to pay attention, not be distracted just by reality shows and technology. All that has its place, but we're not paying attention to what's really happening and where people need to wake up, educate themselves, educate their families, and make better choices and demand better choices. That's what I love about social networking. Mm-hmm. Is it's going to be us, the people, that change things here. So we need to wake up more and stick together and really get the truth of what's happening and how we can implement better protocols and shift paradigms and integrate. I'm not anti-Western. We need drugs, we need surgery. We just need to marry it with more of the root causes and blend together and work together from, a common goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting too, when you allow a child or, an adult, if you, allow yourself to go through a sickness. Just recently I had this bronchial infection and it was really bad. I hadn't been sick in 10 years and I got this bronchial infection and it was just really horrible. And I had the opportunity to take an antibiotic, at some point during that. But I just told myself, I would rather be sick for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 or 5 weeks, I think it actually was, mm-hmm. than take an antibiotic and then, be well in about a week. Because the long-term damage that these things cause, I'd rather go through, a few weeks of really uncomfortable health for a while because the long-term damage is really, really debilitating, isn't it?
Well, it's more than that. Unfortunately, we're becoming antibiotic resistant, so people will go into a hospital for a wrist surgery and then don't come out of that hospital because they acquire an infection there and then they're resistant and the antibiotics don't work. There are no more antibiotics coming down the pipeline, and people are dying from common surgeries and things because we've abused them. So we're at a time where we're going back to what do we have on the planet Earth and herbs and things to be able to work with the immune system. And the reality is that sometimes it's not even coming from the physicians. It's the people out there that still go and beg and plead their doctors always for antibiotics because that's what they've been trained to do and what they grew up with. And that's why people need to be their own health care provider and be their own advocate. And that's my biggest thing. That's why I spend the time with people on a first visit is, I want to get you educated, healthy, and thriving, and then I don't see you anymore. I set you free because you know how to take care of yourself and keep yourself in balance.
Right. Bad business model, though.
I was just going to say brilliant business model.
No, it's actually good, yeah.
No.
That's amazing. So when you were talking with patients maybe for the first time, they're coming to you and they think maybe they're told to go to you by a friend or they're just barely kind of know anything about this kind of stuff. And they come to you and they're talking to you. Do they have a glazed look on their eyes because there's so much information that you're trying to download to them?
Probably, when I give them a packet because, I think after they're done with me, they're like, what the hell just happened? So, I write it down, I talk fast, and I'm so passionate about what I do that, I think more than anything, they're thrilled because they feel hope when they leave my office. I mean, if I have to say the comments that I get around the world, because my books are in different languages, is that I give people hope again. And if you give people hope, you gave them life. Because then after that, they can find the tools to change the behavior and the actions to heal. So, you know, I think for the most part, yes, they're a little bit overwhelmed, but it's all written there, and it makes sense to them, and it gives them a game plan, not just, okay, because, you know, you have people in my field that will only spend a short period of time and do the same thing in Western medicine, which is here, just take this herb, do that. No, that's not good enough. Educate the person. Why are they inflamed? Why are they infected? Why would it make a difference if they don't, you know, the body's not healing if they're only getting 4 hours of sleep? You've got to teach them why the body's out of balance and why it's important to take care of this house, as I call it, because yes, we're spiritual, we're emotional, we're mental and emotional, but we also have this carnal body, and if you don't take care of the house, it will crumble. Mm-hmm. So you educate them, and then they get it, and then I always tell people that I think might veer off and not come back, I'll say to them, look, you can't unknow what you do know, so this will come back and nag at you at some point. And, you know, I'm real. It's like, you know, I'm not teaching people to be monks. What I'm telling them to do is give me a period of time. Let me help you clean up the infection, inflammation, feel great, and then you go out in the world and then you find a new balanced, moderate point, which would mean maybe once or twice a week you indulge in your chocolate or your wine or whatever you're into versus every day. Mm-hmm. The difference is body can't handle junk every day anymore. We're not living 4 to 5 decades ago when the water, the air, the food was more pristine. We don't live in that world anymore.
You know what I love about your work is how you're empowering people, because it seems like such an art that's lost, especially with the medical industry these days. And I like to refer to it as an industry because that's really what it is. And when you go in to see a regular doctor, you usually walk out with this extreme dependence on them for either the drugs, the surgery, or some other treatment, the diagnosis. But then you're also walking away with a label that you've now attached to yourself. You know, you see yourself as, oh, I have cancer, or I have this thing. And since you do NLP and you do quantum work and all this kind of stuff, it really sounds like you're working with people to empower them to realize that these aren't necessarily labels that they have
to buy into.
Yeah, to buy into, because they're not their body anyway. So they don't have these anything really. They're spirit, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing I do most for people is strip the label away, because you're in a box, and I go, get rid of the box. Yep, your body's out of balance. Now what are we going to do about it? And then help them neutralize the fear and move into a space of empowerment. I mean, look, I wish I would have had me as an advocate years ago when I was going through my crisis. And, you know, I had very few people on my side and willing to even know what information was out there. And so it comes from a personal experience that I have so much passion about turning the light switch on for people and knowing this is not what we're meant to be here to do. It's not how we're supposed to live, and have this overshadow of doom and gloom and what meds am I going to be on and what disease is going to happen. Yeah, we all pass, because people will say to me, well, what does it matter what I eat and take? I'm going to die anyway. And I said, you are, but how do you want to do the ride? You want to have quality aging. Mm-hmm. That means having your mental acuity and flexibility in the body and having energy and having creativity. And I think that is living. Most people today survive. Mm-hmm. They don't thrive and they don't live. I want you to live, thrive, and be passionate and go for it.
How important do you think it is for people to have a passion in their life in terms of doing their life's work professionally? Do you think it's pretty important?
Critical. Because I think you don't get excited about waking up. If you just feel like you're a machine and all you do is crank out money to pay the bills and, you know, exhaust yourself, and there's not enough balance in life to play and do what you love to do, I think it becomes kind of futile and pointless about why you think you're here. And it doesn't mean that everybody can afford to maybe leave their job, but they might make enough room to get into a hobby that allows that passion to come through.
Because I would imagine that you'd want to have at least some sort of passion that's really fun for you. Like you said, maybe a hobby. Someone might like to play racquetball or tennis or something. But then also, you know, if some people want to take it a step further and realize, like you did, that, hey, this is what I want to do for my career. And that's what we're doing, is we get this extreme satisfaction knowing that we're just helping people, you know, and I think that's a big deal, you know.
Well, you know what? You touched on something that's really kind of interesting I've been observing. In the last 2 years, I have noticed in my office a high volume of people walking away from their professions to go do what they're passionate about. And really, it usually means somehow it's connected and helping others. It's like they realize how many toys can you have, how many houses, how many things. And it's not that material things aren't nice, but they're realizing that's not feeding their soul. Mm-hmm. And they're walking away and they're going to do what they want to do that they feel keeps them connected and helping other people, and they love to wake up to it every day. And that's happening by leaps and bounds right now.
Isn't that great?
Oh, it's so encouraging. I mean, so encouraging. That's
what Kate did. She is still doing hair 1 day a week, but she's a hairstylist, and you're basically walking away from that, and that's the same thing I did. This is what we do. It's scary, and you let it go. But man, I tell you couldn't pay me $1 million to go back to those 5 days a week anymore. My soul can't handle it, and that's where I know there was a problem there. Yeah. And that's stress. That's the number one body breaker is stress, and people are so unhappy today, but they don't have to be. And the deal is that they got to find the courage to be able to take the many steps to make those changes, and that's really it, is that some people just aren't willing to do that, and that's okay. I don't judge that, but the reality is there's so much more. Sometimes, people don't want to take that responsibility, but God, I would think that for the most part, if you realize that, you can be so much freer, and I really think that that's it. It's, freedom to me isn't how much money you have. Freedom to me is if you have inner peace. Mm-hmm. Wow. And that's different for everybody, and so I think that's a really important thing to look for and ask yourself, what would bring more joy and what would bring more peace and what would bring more just, that sense of balance. And that's what I see most, is that people now don't just come in with their sinusitis or their candida issues or their MS. Most people are coming in anxious and depressed on top of it. Mm. Yeah, you can start, painting a pretty good story as to why people are sick when you go all the way back to the vaccines and when they're, when they're a child or when they're in the womb receiving really, really poor food. You can, sort of extrapolate out an entire model as to why they are the way they are. Do you personally do anything like prayer, meditation to stay peaceful? Absolutely. Look, at being an intuitive, I'm more sensitive than most, and I find that I'm, sensitive to some of the chaotic energy that's happening on the planet. Not some, there's a lot. So it's very important that I set the tone each day. So as much as I floss, my teeth and my gums, I also set the tone each day where immediately I wake up and I start saying some affirmations. I sit up on my backboard and I meditate. And then I go and walk my dogs. So, and then when I go into my office, I do certain energetic techniques to kind of shield me. Mm-hmm. So I feel it's so important for me to set the tone each day because, when you meditate, I feel there's a common law, it's almost like an energy wave of frequency of fear-based negative law and order that happens on this planet. And when you meditate, it's enough to take you up above it and kind of hover above it where, yes, you're human and you dip into those emotions, but you don't live there. You live in the vibrations and frequency of love and light and joy. Because I think that's what we're all meant to really be part of. But, if I don't do that work, I start to feel the stress of the energy from my clients and what's going on around the world. And I'm also very selective about what I watch. I don't watch news. I like to be informed, but I don't watch common things that are all fear-based darts being thrown at me. Mm-hmm. I don't take that in subliminally and subconsciously. Yeah, that's important. I don't want to be around that. That's very important, isn't it, to not subject ourselves to... We don't even like to see violent movies anymore, anything like that, because whatever you're watching is somehow, some energetic way getting imprinted on your psyche, on your subconscious level, and it's all getting in there, isn't it? Absolutely, and that's where people are wondering why they wake up with all this generalized anxiety, and when you start to peel it apart and look at people's habits, you can kind of clue them in, and they would never think that, and why would you? But when you add it all up, yes, it's very disturbing, and I can't. I remember seeing, I think it was the last one, but the Batman movie or something. It was so dark and violent all the way through, and I was like, you know what? I didn't enjoy this at all. Yeah. You look, right after you're done watching it, you realize, what's the feeling that I have? What do I feel like? And it just feels weird. And that's it. It's people need to be awake. I think people are still sleepwalking and numbed out, whether it's on medication or food, and we need to wake up and become aware and take baby steps. I'm not asking people to be, go from A to Z, just baby steps. If you spent 1 month just getting the sugar out of your diet or gluten, and then you started to exercise 3 times a week, or, we're a work in progress. I
strove for perfection. It nearly killed me. And I realized that was coming from a theme of not feeling good enough. And I finally got, doing the best I can. We've all come, have our thing to learn and our journey in life of where we're going to grow and evolve. And I stopped pushing myself and let the evolution unfold as it's supposed to. And so just because I have this awareness doesn't mean challenges don't come in my life. What it means is when they do come, I have great tools to move through it quicker, and I let the story go quicker, and I carry the wisdom forth and move on.
Mm. It's almost like you're just, having no attachments to things and to thoughts and ideas and stresses and things, and you kind of just let it in and then let it out, right?
Well, you let it in, but you also look at it and realize, why is it presenting itself? Mm-hmm. And you take the wisdom from that. So, like I said, most of the most challenging things are our greatest teachers. And so, I've never been the most patient person, and I've had a lot of challenges that taught me patience. And instead of being so driven, I haven't lost my drive because I'm passionate, but I allow things to come to me now, like where my career is going to be going and where my goals. I don't push that anymore. I allow it to come into me in its right time and place. And that has freed me tremendously.
Wow. Yeah.
So I've gone from, being type A to like maybe a B+.
Type A minus, type B plus.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's such it's because to relinquish control like that and to let things come in and being sort of in touch with God and the universe and living in that place of awareness of that you're living, for a much deeper purpose and allowing things to come in versus type A. I think we all have a little type A, and it's where you want to control everything. It's such a different paradigm.
It's totally different. It's very freeing. And I always chuckle because when I live in that space, and then I imagine, I'll give you an example. I'm working on this food line with a great chef, and we're going to come up with some quality foods that fit pretty much anybody's diet, but it'll definitely be along the lines of a candida diet. But, and so I'm sitting there, and this new client walks in, and, we start talking. I don't know why we got to the subject, but he goes, well, I'm like the manager of all the raw stock protein powders, and it was like exactly what I need. And he goes, you know what, and I'd be willing to sit down with you and your business partner and talk about, give you A to Z of the food industry. I mean, just fell in my lap.
My goodness.
And I started laughing, and I'm going in, but that's what's happening every day for me. It's like those little miracles keep showing up because I keep getting out of the way, and I keep trusting.
Okay, we got to ask you, because we have felt like that, my wife and I, for the last probably, 6 months? Okay?
Yeah, for sure. 6 to 8 months.
For about 6 to 8 months. And I have read about that and things that you were just talking about, synchronicities and things like this, for 10 years. And I was doing a raw food diet, really healthy, all this stuff. And so doing all these things, and it never happened. And then in the last 6 months, we are sort of living what you were just describing, living in the flow, and things happen every day.
It's just totally aligning. It's wild.
It's really weird. And what do you think can help someone get to that point where they're starting to see these things, these little miracles happen every day?
Well, it takes a few things. That's a hard one because it's intangible. One is you have to feel connected to something, God, source, universe, Tao. So you've got to feel that connection. The other thing is to start to, because control is about fear. So one of the affirmations I love best is, I've been saying this for probably 25 years in the shower, is I love, accept, respect, trust, and honor, and cherish myself and my body unconditionally. You can't begin to trust more unless you honor yourself. And most people don't honor themselves. They don't put themselves first on the list. They don't nurture themselves, etc. So an affirmation like that, saying it 7 times over each day, is a really great way to imprint the subconscious mind, because once you start to trust more, then you get out of the way, because what we're talking about is something that's not tangible, and that creates faith and hope and all those things. And so it's a practice. It's a practice where you set your intentions for what you want and you let it go. And also another trick I'll tell you is to invite what you want. And I use adjectives. I say, I ask the Tao to invite, or universe to invite, miracles, or an amazing life partner, prosperity, great health. But be consistent. People do these little things as a novelty because they do it once or twice and go, oh, that didn't work, so I'm on to something else.
Right.
Consistency pays off. So it's reading good books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and there's another good book that I love for all people that are not real. They think all this is too kumbaya. There's a good book by Jen Sincero called How to Be a Badass, Stop Doubting Yourself and Live Out Your Awesome Life.
Nice.
Love this book. Just little ways to get in touch with the tools and techniques so talking out loud is one trick, affirmations another. And two and the most important is the consistency. Because then when it starts happening, you're just going to chuckle at yourself and then it builds on itself. So another example, I love this one. I'll go to a seminar and I ask, all right, I set the tone and said, connecting with people, places, and things for my highest good today. And I'll go in and I'll stand at the door and then my ego might come up and go, I don't want to sit next to that person. Well, then I end up sitting next to that person and either they ended up being an amazing human being or they had some contact for me or we exchanged some really great information. And I always laugh and I go, see, so it's that moment where you allow the doubt to maybe surface but don't live it. Say, thank you, I see you, go play outside, and you go forward with, and trusting and moving into that space. And it's having the intention to want that to come in. You have to have that kind of conscious awareness that you both came into 6 months ago of wanting more of that synchronicity and alignment. And the more you want it, you energize it, it comes into your life.
And then once you're aware of it and it starts coming into your life, it's sort of snowballs and it takes on a life of its own. And you start seeing, because you're now more aware in your daily life, you start seeing all kinds of little miracles every single day. It's just so inspirational, isn't it?
Well, what happens more than that is that you stop trying to have control the way it's going to look. Like, I know this year I'm going to skyrocket because I want to speak to a lot more people than my one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it's going to look, and I actually look forward each day to be surprised. Like, before I want to know, should I plan this and get the webinars going and da-da-da-da? And I'm like, nope, I'm just going to, I know the intention and I want to see who walks through my life and how it's going to unfold.
Wow.
It's a whole different mindset.
Now, I have to ask you, do you work with any tools, physical tools like crystals or pyramids or any crazy kind of things like that? Do you work with any of those on a personal level?
I work with clear quartz crystals in my office, and yes, I do in my office to protect me. So they're more for protection in my office from just negative and fear-based energy. And then I also work with clear quartz crystals to magnetize and augment what I want. So yes, I do work with them, and that's about it as far as physical tools.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, we're finding them very powerful, aren't we?
Yeah, we love it.
We actually put them under our...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was laughing. We actually put them under our bed now, and we sleep like babies. It's pretty funny.
Well, clear quartz crystals is very good for beginners. That's really where, because all of, stones and all those crystals have energy, but I find unless you're really skilled at that, the best place is clear quartz crystals. And you put them like in grass to kind of cleanse the energy, and then you can kind of, put them, hold one in your hand and kind of out loud augment what you want into that. So if that crystal is going to be about more inner peace, or maybe it's health, or maybe you want prosperity, and you kind of seal it in verbally, and then every day when you're meditating, hold it, or, play with it each day in some way to give it energy and know that that's what that's about, have it specifically designed for that intention.
So fast. So what would you recommend for people that might have like a really raging candida infection, and we're kind of on this idea right now of living with intention and this kind of thing and affirmations. What would you recommend for someone, they could have a candida issue or a bad liver or something like that, in terms of an affirmation for their liver or for their body part and talking to their body? Is there anything that you think would be good for that?
I think it's keep it simple. When you do affirmations, the one I gave you before is probably the lengthiest one. But, it could be something that's just is that I'm happy and healthy. Mm-hmm. I always say I'm whole and balanced. I feel that's kind of the caveat that grabs everything. I am whole and balanced, because people want to be conditional with even how they do affirmations. And I'm like, no, why would you be bigger than the universe? Don't know how that comes in. So they'll specifically say that, my T cells are at da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no. I am whole and balanced, because that covers the mental, the emotional, the physical. So I like that one a lot for anything that's going on with a physical balance or a psychological imbalance. Mm. And you could say, I would say my liver is whole and balanced. So that would be another way you could pinpoint a little bit more. Mm. But you want to be specific, but not so specific that you're narrow in possibly how those avenues could come in. Or, you might think that you need a certain level of, your T cell count to be somewhere, or something that you're being specific, and really it's different than what you know. So don't, be simple, I put affirmations in both, actually more in the Healing MS book. And, Louise Hay, she was, a master at that. Her book, You Can Heal Your Life, she even pinpoints each system that gets out of balance, what the emotion is that's being held there, and then gives you a positive affirmation. So I would use that book as a resource.
Wow. That is a powerful book. I'm actually going through it for the first time right as we speak, and it is powerful.
Yeah, she healed herself of cancer. This is another one that, look at. What you have to realize is that, yes, the body is everybody's going to pass, and cancer and autoimmune is more prevalent than I've ever seen. It's 1 out of 2 with cancer in the U.S. and 1 out of 8 with autoimmune. Wow. We are a very sick and toxic nation right now, but there are solutions. It's just people have to get hungry enough to want to find those solutions and then be their own advocate, to be disciplined enough to be able to follow it through and stay consistent. Then you heal.
I love what you're doing because it's, on many different layers and many different levels. You're not just attacking, or I shouldn't even use the word attack, but you're not just, going after this, people's issues with the physical thing, with health and with diet and nutrition, but you're also looking at so many other levels for people, so that it really gives them a blueprint, really to have some tools, really to empower themselves. And I just, I think there's, there are a lot of people doing work that's like yours, and I'm so glad that there's more people that are waking up to the spiritual, the emotional, and the mental side of healing as well as the physical. It's just great.
Well, I don't think I would stay successful, to be honest with you. I think I've been challenged as a practitioner to have to integrate all these areas, because what I see in my office is not easy anymore. I'm seeing people with not just one autoimmune disease, but they have 2 or 3. I've seen 9-year-olds walk in with autoimmune disease. So I'm being tested constantly to step up my game and really realize the holism of what needs to happen for an individual, particularly when it's a chronic situation. So, I really stay very open, knowing that everybody that walks in my office teaches me as much as I teach them.
Well, I think that, with the way our food, business, the big food agricultural business is going, and that industry, I think you're going to be a busy lady for many, many years.
I think so, and my goal is just to, it's time for me to broadcast to more people at once, and thank you for this opportunity today, because that's really where my passion is at, and if I can turn on a bunch of light switches, then, that's what makes me get up every day.
That's so great. So what kinds of things are you working on? I know you mentioned a webinar and things, and you want to kind of get your message out to more people. Are you working on any new presentations or books or anything like that?
Well, I'm in the midst of a cookbook. So the cookbook will be called the Candida Cure Cookbook. It's going to go with both my books and also fit pretty much anybody that's on a restrictive diet, because I feel the Candida diet covers most everything that's out there. So I'm halfway through that. I'm working on Alchemy Foods is the food line that's going to come out. And then as far as speaking and all that, I don't know. That's kind of where the surprise is. I'm kind of seeing where the offers come in. And I've got some ideas, but I'm not pushing, and I'm kind of letting that unfold. I just think there might be things such as seminars, and, I'd love to do keynote speaking and possibly television. I'm open.
Wow, that's so great. Gosh, I had so many things on my list today. You've got this whole thing with ionic foot spa baths, these detoxification foot baths, and we didn't even barely talk about multiple sclerosis. So
I know.
I think we might have to do this again if you're interested.
That's fine. We'll do another show and go to some other areas.
That is so great. All right, everybody, check out her website, Ann Baroque. Let me just read it off to you just in case one more time. It's ANNBOROCH.com, AnnBaroque.com, and you can go on there and get her book, The Candida Cure and Healing Multiple Sclerosis. And you can check out her website and also set up a Skype session if you're not in the area, and she can talk to you over the phone and do a consultation with you. So all of that is on AnnBaroque.com. And this is episode 215. So those of you who are listening to the live show, we're going to be signing off now. But if you're interested in the post,
the afterthoughts,
the after show, I guess you could call it, we'll be doing that on the podcast. So it's extremehealthradio.com/215, and you can check out that on the podcast. And we're going to sign off the live show right now. Okay, sorry about that. I just had to click off the live show. Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Oh, that was so much fun. It was just so great because you're so multifaceted.
So motivating.
Yeah.
So inspiring.
Well, great. Yeah, and thank you for having me on. And then, when you get a link for it, let me have that, and then, I'll put it up on my website.
Yeah, that's so great. So great.
Yay.
Well, thank you for spending 25 minutes extra with us.
Yeah.
That was really great. I really appreciate that.
Well, my pleasure, and keep doing what you're doing. People need to get educated.
Thank you so much, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
I will be in contact very soon with the links. I'll send those over to you.
All right, you take care.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks, Ann.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, well, there you have it. Mrs. Ann Baroque.
We need to get her back on talking about MS.
Like the musician. Wasn't there a musician, Baroque?
I think that was a period, wasn't it, where they had art? The Baroque period. Spelled completely different with a Q.
Oh, was it?
But good call.
Well, I was close.
Are you thinking Bach?
Bach?
Perhaps?
Maybe I was thinking Bach.
You're hilarious.
No, she was really great, wasn't she?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
Surrounding yourself with people, books and podcasts, people like her and Lissa Rankin, who I've been turned on to lately, it's just, you walk away feeling changed, and inspired more than when you came into that conversation. And that's what I think people are going to feel the most empowered by.
Yeah.
That they can do it, that there is hope. Obviously, all the message she got out here today was just invaluable information.
Next time we talk to her, we have to have her on again. She's so great. But next time we talk with her, I'm curious as to how the whole thing started, because, it almost seemed like during the interview, we didn't get into, the big business and the vaccines and all these types of things that are really dark and stuff. And, I didn't want to go there. And I don't think she wanted to go there either, because this is really about empowering people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm just curious how she woke up herself, because we know how she sort of got into the physical side because of her near-death experience and all that. But I'm curious how she woke up to what's really going on in the world and things like that too. Really interesting.
There's so much of people's stories that I think, never really get displayed over just an hour, obviously. But
yeah,
I wonder what brought her to that point.
So it sounds like she's got a 90-day candida program. Is that right, that she mentioned?
She did say 90-day, yeah.
It's in the Candida Cure. And we'll put a link to that, to her books. Yeah, I think you can get them on ebook or physical book. If people still read physical books these days.
I know I do. I love physical books.
Yeah. So we'll put those on extremehealthradio.com/215. I just liked what she was all about, inspiring people. And it's almost like that thing where, what's that saying where people, if you teach a man to...
teach it. Buy a man a fish, he'll basically not go hungry.
Yeah.
But teach a man to fish, and he'll never hunger again.
Yeah. And that's really what it's all about, is teaching. But I could imagine being a fly on the wall and being in someone's initial consultation with her.
Oh gosh.
Because it's like you're trying to really download all this information to someone who has no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, their
people
eyes
wouldn't know where to start.
Have to be glazed over.
Yeah. Truly.
Just glossy-eyed.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember being at the beginning of that journey for me, myself. And, the first naturopath I went to, I was like, what? I don't understand. But it's funny that just the more you become exposed to this, it just doesn't, it almost is so comforting now. It's not like glazed look. It's more like, oh, eyes wide open. I can't get enough of this information. But I think obviously everyone's journey to get to that point is so different.
Yeah.
But I can imagine you're right. If you just took someone off, I had a client this morning, actually, I had to go in to do one client because we're going to be leaving out of town, and just slipped her in. And so we're talking about stuff, and she goes, why do you, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. People have probably always had cancer, and we just didn't know that it was cancer. And so it's always been there. But why does it seem like so many young people are getting cancer? And I said, I posed a couple just interesting questions. Well, do you think it could be because of this? Or do you think it could be because of that? And she's like, yeah, no. And it was just, she just
really?
She's just like, I think it's just how it is. But I thought, wow, people are so far removed from just even, just critical thinking and being open to an idea that maybe that is maybe that vaccination does have something to do with it, possibly. Even if you don't want to go there and believe it wholeheartedly, just the questioning ability.
Just the ability to entertain a question.
Right? It's it's so disturbing to me.
Well, what things did you propose to her?
Oh, gosh.
The vaccinations?
Vaccination. It was autoimmune and cancer we were talking about. Vaccination. Our processed foods and microwaves and things that weren't natural.
And what did she say? She said, oh, no, it can't be that.
And I said also our environmental factors. And she's like, thought about it for a minute, eyes up in the air, thinking, nah, no, like just wasn't even willing to at least even just, I could tell she gave it all of 2 seconds and was like, ah. And you know why though? I mean, she had just gotten off, a 2-minute rant about her favorite Italian pasta and how much she can't stand quinoa. So, these people just aren't open people. She said quinoa is just like, if it came to like dying or eating quinoa, she'd rather die kind of thing. Like if she can't have her pasta, it's like, it's all about taste. I mean, people that are foodies are pretty funny like that.
Yeah, they're very particular. Wow.
Pretty amazing. But it reminded me, I drove home, to come here to do the show, and I thought, wow, people are so far removed. Like people, I guess sometimes we think we don't know anything. Mm-hmm. People really don't know anything.
I know. It's scary.
It's very scary.
Yeah. I mean, people don't even know the basics of taking care of themselves.
Nope.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was thinking during the show with Ann, I was thinking, why is it that people don't even have the first clue as to what food to eat or really just taking care of yourself? People don't have any idea. Yeah. And, I realize there's different viewpoints on how to take care of yourself, but just the very notion of doing such a thing is completely not even something that is in people's awareness.
Yes, it's not even on the radar.
No one would think, why would I not get a vaccine, or why would I read food labels, or why would I, be concerned with, gluten or chemtrails or anything. It's just crazy.
Or human feces on my fertilizing my organic vegetables. Oh.
It is.
Wow.
There's a lot of work to do, isn't there?
There is. And it can be exciting work. I feel like after talking with somebody like that, you're like, okay, this isn't all just like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. We're all doomed. Mm-hmm. I really value, I can easily get sucked down the road of doom and gloom personally. I've always been very sensitive to that kind of thing.
Right.
It's funny to start existing and then thriving, moving more into thriving in a place where you can keep that at bay and be aware of probably what's really going on, but then also continue to keep your sense of peace and your sense of hope and your sense of motivation. Like she just sounds so motivated to, hey, let's work alongside Western doctors. There's nothing wrong. Western medicine saves us in so many ways. Right. If you break your arm, you're going to need a surgery, or, thank God for them, like she was saying. But I just love that balance. If you can, I feel like I'm slowly starting to see, okay, I'm balancing out more. Because for a while I just went down like, oh my gosh, everyone's out to get us. The world is trying to kill us with chemicals.
Yeah.
If it's not that, it's something else, this, that, or the other. Yeah. But man, it does health starts in your thoughts. And I think being careful to guard your thoughts is bigger than anything.
Oh yeah.
Bigger than anything. Bigger than what supplements you do or what food you cut out. It all starts in your thoughts.
To really be aware of your thoughts and what you're thinking is huge. Huge. Because, 90% of the time it's our subconscious mind that's running the program, as Bruce Lipton talks about.
It's a fake story anyway.
It's a fake story that we believe, but we don't even question it because we don't have the awareness to realize what we're doing. Where all of a sudden, after 30 minutes of driving, we realize, what was I doing? Right. I don't even remember driving.
Oh, that's frightening.
I look at it like what you're just talking about with the protection of guarding your thoughts. I look at it like almost like a magnet, how two opposites, or what is it, two like magnets, they repel each other.
Yeah.
Is it two opposites?
Yeah, two of the same, right?
Two of the same. And so it's almost as if you have a level of energetics or frequency or vibration, and you're happy, you're spirited, you're motivated, you're inspired, and you're living a life that's attracting all those same things. And then you can sort of play around with ideas like, why are they building,
mass grave sites
or, all these things.
Concentration camps.
If you go on to Alex Jones's stuff, but, that's very disempowering, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really is disempowering. So
it is.
You can really start to, if you don't have a high level of vibration and energetics in your own body, through mastering your health, mastering your thoughts, your food you eat. If you don't have that kind of thing, it's almost like going to be where if you're the magnet on the right, you get flipped over, and all of a sudden you attract all that stuff.
Sure.
That comes to you, it becomes into your life, and then it starts dominating your thoughts, and you become afraid and fearful. But if you have the high frequency, it's it's going to not only repel all them, but it's going to keep you vibrating at a high frequency.
I agree. Once you start vibrating, I think that's when the change happens. That's what happens when we saw us, and what's happened in the last 6 months with us starting to attract those kinds of things. And we'd always wanted it. We always thought we could have it, but we didn't know how to get it.
Right.
And then it just happens totally natural. I mean, and I think that's the process, like she was talking about those too, like of letting go. The less you try to control things, the more you're like, holy cow, this is the way this works. Like,
it's almost at some point like, you know, we do our part and God does the rest.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
There's only so much we can do.
There's only so much you can do.
We can't be afraid of everything and, you know, oh, we didn't wash this apple or whatever. I mean, at some point we just have to follow someone's ideas and hope for the best, right?
Yeah, and trust that it's the best for you. Even if it's not and you tell yourself that, I think you're going to get a heck of a lot more. You know, it's like the placebo. You're just going to get farther than you should have, you know, given the circumstances.
Right.
But you can actually start changing things on a physical and emotional level just by what you believe, obviously.
Pretty cool. We have so much more that we wanted to get to with Anne Baroque.
We got to have her back on. She's fabulous.
Yeah, she's great. She's a lot of fun. AnneBaroche.com is her website, ANNBOROCH, AnneBaroche.com. And you can check out this show page. We'll have the links for you. Kate was kind enough to take notes for all of you.
Oh, I'm so kind.
At extremehealthradio.com/215. And something I wanted to mention too, if any of you listeners are interested in becoming a contributing writer for our website, it would be really great if you wanted to do that. And what we would do is post your unique article on our website, and there would be links at the bottom about the author and a picture of you with a link to your website and social media sites. And so people can become more exposed to your work. And if you're interested in becoming a part of this new program that we have on our website, it's brand new. And all you have to do is email me, Justin@extremehealthradio.com, and send me the article. It just needs to be unpublished, so it's got to be unique. But you can just email me, and we'll go through and go back and forth, and you can work with us and have your content on our website, and we'll share that with our Facebook fans and our Twitter people. And so it's a good way to get your word out, you know, about your work. And also, if you'd like to continue the discussion of this type of information on our forum, it's brand new and it's completely free, exclusive for extremehealthradio.com listeners. So sign up on our forum if you'd like to check that out.
Our forum family. Join it, please.
Yeah, we've got over 100 people in there.
So fun.
Yeah, really good stuff. Really cutting edge people.
Yes.
Just amazing. Extreme people.
Extreme. Imagine that on Extreme Health Radio.
I know, right? So if you guys would like to support us, there's a lot of different ways to do that. We do accept donations. Our shows are free. And if you'd like to send us a donation of any size to help keep everything free, please consider doing that. If you go to extremehealthradio.com/donate, you could find that. And you can donate on a monthly basis. We're so thankful to those who do. And you can also do a one-time donation. And I know you might think that donating $5 or $10 really doesn't mean that much, but trust me, it means so much when we get your donations like that. It's very, very
very
helpful.
appreciated.
Yeah, very appreciated. So consider doing that. If not, just pass our show on to your friends via Facebook or anything like that. We would be so grateful. And as always, we're here for you. And is that about it?
I think that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, there you go. All right. Don't forget to check out Anne Baroque's website, and you can find that at AnneBaroche.com. And
I really enjoyed her.
Yeah, she's great. Mm-hmm. We will be back
Friday or tomorrow.
That's right.
Should be
9 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That's right.
Live. So check that out, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers or listeners medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog and during this podcast is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any of the